So ladies and gentlemen, the moment has come. Can you please rise to make sure that we welcome appropriately the two gentlemen who are joining us to give us solutions to some of the challenges. We are having Almighty Mabule as well as Manu Machaba. Thanks a lot for joining us. If you may sit, gentlemen, thanks a lot for coming out. And we do apologize for the delay. We just had to give time to ensure that we give our third guest to come, but we were already, over time. Can we kick off with you, Ndate Mighty? If you could just, briefly introduce yourself, who you are, your corporate experience, educational background, and the current institution that you're working.
Okay. My name is Mighty Mabule. I'm a business advisor for CEDA. In terms of qualifications, I studied many things. I have to think properly, I did entrepreneurship and small business management program with UNISA. I did an advanced entrepreneurship program with University of Pretoria. I did forensic auditing diploma with University of Johannesburg. I did program in small business consultancy with Northwest University. I did Bachelor of Arts honors with University of Limpopo. I did thought leadership program with Thabo Mbeki African Leadership Institute, etc. So I'm currently business advisor for CEDA, responsible for development of small businesses. I've worked in different sectors. I've worked in the shipping environment. I've worked a bit in the manufacturing sector. I've worked in the forensic space as well. I've worked in the logistics space as well. So that's me.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Manu Machaba. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you, sir.
My background is actually legal. I graduated around 1994. I practiced law for 22 years. This is my 23rd year in law. One of my majors were the law of contracts. I worked for the NPA litigation. Well, before then, I worked as a legal assistant for Lawyers for Human Rights. I worked as a legal assistant as well for private attorneys, denali attorneys, and then I worked as an interpreter. And eventually, I assumed litigation for 11 years, and then 11 years later, then I got into senior management position within the NPA until last year when I resigned to pursue my goals. My qualifications obviously are law. I've got qualifications also the leadership certificates. I've got mini MBA diploma. I've got project management. Recently I just qualified. I got my certificate in negotiations, that is conflict resolutions and business negotiations. What I'm doing now is where I met him. I'm currently a service provider for the Innovation Hub, where you've got all the ECASI labs. I service them. I service Megzam. I service Egoli Bio. I've facilitated few events even for CEDA as well on negotiations for cooperatives. And I think in a nutshell that's what I do. Thank you.
I think with that intro, when you sit in there, there must be something for you that you can ask. We really have a panel that is very broad, and I appreciate that. Dr. Mighty, just to kick off, what is the state of entrepreneurship currently in South Africa?
According to the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor 2017-2018, The entrepreneurial activity in the country has increased. It's actually sitting at 11.0%. It's actually the peak as compared to what was actually happening in 2016. So the state of entrepreneurship in the country is actually growing, but there's still a lot of challenges that entrepreneurs are actually facing. So especially at the startup level, most of the activity growth is actually at the startup level. But according to SMME quarterly report 2017-2018, the state is actually going down. So it depends on the phase that we're actually looking at.
And then, according to Manu, what is the state of entrepreneurship? Especially what you've seen in terms of how people in business, regard, negotiation and just, contracts.
Look, I think we're working a lot with very innovative youth. And I think from even interacting with them, there's a lot of brilliant ideas that they have. However, you find that, because my space actually, amongst others, is I workshop them in terms of how to write business proposals and how to pitch, how to negotiate contracts, and how to look, analyze the contracts. I think there's quite a room of improvement, but I think they need to improve more in terms of, your proposals and the pitch.
We'll delve into that. Ndate Mike, let's start it here. Here's someone who says, I want to, start a business. Just talk us through some of the things we need to consider when structuring our business. Choosing, do I go the PTY route? Do I go an NPC route? What are some of the things that whenever we start businesses, and those that are already in business, they must make sure that they got it on lockdown, like the structure of the business, the shareholder agreements, for example, because some of us here, we have partners, but we've never really sat and said who owns what percentage.
I always advise my clients to look at themselves first. We are in a situation where the education system does not actually propel one towards the direction of self-discovery. So before you start a business, before we deal with compliance issues, you must look at yourself and say, what is it that I'm passionate about? What is it that I'm talented at? Because the mistake that most of the entrepreneurs do is that they just follow the crowd. So before you think of compliance issues, you must look at yourself and say, what is it that I'm passionate about? What are the talents that I'm having? What is it that I can turn into business? Then from there, you can start actually looking at all the compliance issues. And once you start the business, you need also to be very careful in terms of the partners that you bring on board. You should not bring somebody because it's your friend, it's your brother, it's a family. Remember, business needs multidisciplinary expertise. So the people that you bring on board, you must make sure that will be able to deal with your weak side, because you'll have a strong points and the weaknesses. So I will say, look at yourself first, discover who you are, look at the areas of passion, look at your talent before you deal with anything, because that, in my opinion, will make a very solid foundation, because entrepreneurial route is not an easy route.
And I think I would also want to add on what he's just said, that you find that most of the partnerships are actually formed on the basis of friendship and not on the basis of the strength that you are coming with. And that is why you'd find, and in some instances, especially startups, at a certain phase, they just want to employ somebody for the sake of, I cannot do it, And they employ somebody as a general worker, to say, do everything, but they cannot tell you exactly what is it that that person is supposed to be doing. There are no standards that have been set. So as a result, you find somebody's being employed because it's a cousin that is not employed. It's a friend that has heard that you've started a business, so you want to be in the business as well. But that person doesn't really understand your vision and mission and the goals that you want to achieve.
So now, I've already started, and I'm listening saying, I've already started the wrong way. I've already started. I chose my friend. I don't know his strengths, but I know his weaknesses. But once I'm operational, how do I remedy that? How do I fix that situation?
Unfortunately, it's quite difficult, especially when you look at the labor laws in South Africa. I always tell people that it's easy to hire, but it's difficult to get rid of somebody. So, look, I would like to say that have an easy answer to say, get rid of them, Unfortunately, we're not in America where you can just fire somebody. There has to be a process. And I always say that, the other problem is you end up now dealing with labor matters instead of doing with what you're supposed to be, attending to, which is your business. Because that person now takes you to court. Then you spend most of the time in court. You don't even have capital. You have to hire a lawyer to do, some of these legal matters for you. And that's one of the reasons why some of the businesses don't make it.
Yeah, let's leave it for a bit later. It's too heated for the beginning. So now, I've got the formalities out of the way. I've formed my PTY, There's a lot of talk around a business model canvas. Can you please define what's a business model canvas and, the difference to a traditional business plan and which one would you, say a person should have in the starting and when it comes to growth?
Yes, in terms of a business model canvas, I'll explain it this way. I'll actually look at the different aspects of the canvas. And the one that I would like to emphasize or start with, it's your unique selling proposition. Competition is very rampant in the business space. Doesn't matter if it's catering or construction or ICT. There's a lot of competition. Now, when you run a business, you must ask yourself a simple question. What is it that will make customers to move from service provider A and come to me? Now, you must ask yourself this question. Before I start my business, already there's 100 or 200 or 500 that are already running. What is it that will make people to come to me? That's one of the aspects of the business model canvas. Unique selling proposition, competitive advantage. What makes you better than others? If you cannot really define or clearly explain your unique selling proposition, you run the risk of just being part of the crowd and not really having the business growing. So business model canvas, I will call it some kind of an instrument that will actually put together different aspects of business so that you can be structured, organized, and be able to penetrate the market. Now, again, in terms of the aspects of the business model canvas, you need to look at your market. Who are you targeting? Business is not about funding. Most entrepreneurs start a business already after registering, they're already looking for money. That is not business. Business is about the market. Because remember, when you're an entrepreneur, you are solving the problem. You are a problem solver. So one of the aspects in the canvas is about the market. Who are you really targeting? What are those market segments? Why are you targeting those people? So there's different areas. The other one is the issue of relationship, key relationships. Who are your strategic partners? Entrepreneurs have this tendency of just running the business in isolation. You cannot just be there, run your own business. You need to identify different, stakeholders that will be working with in that particular business. So there's a number of them. There's marketing side, there's a whole lot of key other factors. So I don't want to really nationalize this discussion.
And I think I'd also like to say that, I always say to entrepreneurs that the reason you are in business is not to compete with some other business that is out there. You are in business because you have identified a fundamental problem. And when I interview a lot of them, actually, when I ask them, why are you in business? The answer that I get all the time is to make money, to create employment, to leave a legacy. And I said, that's not why you're in business. You are in business because you want to solve a problem. Now, when you are in business, the money issue will come because of your solving a problem. When people see that you solve their problem, what do? They come to you. Now, when you have a customer, then at least you're able to say, now I'm making money, isn't it? And I'm also, solving problems. You are also able to create employment. Then you can look at an issue of a legacy. Also, when they start, or I say to them, what you should do as well is, it's well and good. You have identified the gap in the market. It shouldn't end there. You should also identify the market in that gap. Segment your people. Know who are you targeting. You understand? Some of them, they are just starting a business because they have a solution. But you don't get in because you have a solution. You get in because you have identified a problem, and over and above, you have a solution to solve that problem. And value proposition is very critical. Always say, identify what is your value proposition, right? What is it that you're going to do differently? Because if you do what everyone else is doing, and you hope to crack it into the market, you're going to be amongst those ones that where they say that about 75% of businesses fold within their first year of registration. So it's very much critical to know what your value proposition is. And I think maybe at a later stage, I'll just touch on some of the key factors of your, creating your value proposition, especially when you pitch.
You just brought up, the 75% failure rate in the first year. What are your top three, top three things that make businesses to fail in the first year, and half of them not even seeing, the third year? And how can I, who's in this audience, make sure that I overcome that and I do not become a state of failure within my first year?
Okay. Like you mentioned that, they can get you finance, but finance is not the solution. There are, business is not about spreadsheets, people. Business is not about A-B, no. Business, amongst other things, it's about how you negotiate your deals. Remember, business, it's about profits. Business is about, you make profit, you must lower your costs, and then once you get the two, then you're able to want to spread your market share. But what you actually see a lot is that some people are making profit, but they are not mindful of the costs of running that business. So as a result, there's an imbalance. So I think they need to strike a balance in that space.
The mighty.
I've indicated the issue of passion as a foundation, in addition to talent and other things. Now, you must be able to understand that when you're an entrepreneur, you need a lot of support. You are a driver, you are a manager, you are a salesman, you are everything. Now, support is absolutely significant at that stage. So you must understand the significance of networking, because it's through the networks that will actually identify that they will actually serve as your support. Because at that stage, you are still trying to solidify your foundation as an entrepreneur. Now, most of our entrepreneurs don't realize the significance of belonging to business organizations, chambers of commerce, and so on. That's where you are able to get networks that will support you. That's where you are able to get, indication in terms of how to create more leads, more sales, and sustain your business. And most importantly, a good leader is a good reader. You can't be an entrepreneur who doesn't read. This thing of young people spending a lot of money on WhatsApps and Facebook, thousands and thousands of rands on data that is very useless. We need to be very, very disciplined when it comes to the little, finance that we have. How many of you will just go on Google and say enterprise development support in South Africa, and you read all those pages? But if I ask, how many of you have been on Facebook for the last 2 or 3 hours, you'll find that's 95% of young people that are here. So we need to understand that at that stage, you need your foundation to be solidified. And that foundation can be solidified by associations, because you need multidisciplinary expertise. You need business support. Now, when you research, that's where you'll identify distinctive business agents, SMME agencies that assist, the CEDAs of this world, the NYDs of this world, the GAPs of this world. But you will never be able to understand, you will never be able to know them if you don't really research and actually network and go where entrepreneurs are.
And can I just, okay. And I think one thing that I omitted to mention is the strength in numbers. I see a lot of entrepreneurs, they want to do everything themselves. They forget that sometimes you need collaboration. And that's one of the weakest points that we have. People do not want to collaborate. People do not want to use other people's strengths. They always want to do everything by themselves. And I think it's because of financial greediness to say, if I collaborate, I have to share my profits with somebody. But then we forget that you can go so much together than alone. Alone you'll get there fast, but when we are together, we'll go much farther. So, and I think that's what they need to do. And also, I agree with him that you need to read, you need to learn a lot. You can know your business, but there's also a business of running your business that you need to learn as well. And that's what they need to do.
Yeah. Do you have any questions so far? All those with questions, can you please just come this side? We'll take 3 in this round, but in each round, whenever there's a question, please, just come this side because we want you to be captured on the footage. Elijah, please.
Good evening, guys. My name is Elijah Jan. I'm an industrial engineering student. I have a business called New Bricks. We're making bricks from paper. So the question I have is, in terms of the reading, what are your top 3 books for an entrepreneur to read? Because I'm an avid reader myself, so just to see what else I should add, or if I already have it. Thanks.
Any other question? So please come, madam.
Visions of Black Economic Empowerment by Cyril Ramaphosa, Wendy Luhabe, and all those business or entrepreneurs. It's a good book to invest in.
Any other question? Okay. And that might response, please.
Look, there's a lot of books to read. But you see now I'm promoting the authors. The first book that I will suggest you read is a book that actually deals with your subconscious mind. Remember, the greatest impediment, Alan Gray Orbis Foundation conducted a study that indicated that one of the impediments to our entrepreneurial success is our mindset. We are our own obstacles. There's no challenge that you cannot overcome as a human being. Your power is absolutely amazing. But your power is actually challenged by your mindset. So you must read the literature that actually assists you to uncoil and get rid of all the things that we have stored that are actually an impediment. Remember, 95% of the decisions that we are taking is as a result of what is in our subconscious mind. That is our bringing. As a black child, the challenges that we had as a black child. That is why you can ask yourself why, other races, are not encountering the same challenges that we're encountering. How many of you see a white boy struggling to find a job or a learnership and so on? How many of you see a child who belongs to the Jewish community struggling to master these things? Remember, 95% of the decisions that we are taking are influenced by your subconscious mind. So I will suggest the first book that you should read Napoleon Hill, How to Think and Grow Rich. That's the first one. And just to give a background about the books, I'm promoting another American. It's okay. It's okay. We are part of the club. Look, that book is not actually a book. It's a research instrument. The author, has been monitoring people, around 1,500 of them from very early age until they became successful entrepreneurs. And then out of that research, he compiled a book that will indicate how to deal with challenges, how to think, what to do, what is it that you need to follow in terms of making the success. And there's a lot of other books that I can actually read for you. The other one that inspired me, I'm inspired by Vusi Tembegwayo. I'm inspired. He's a black child. Very powerful global speaker at the age of 40. One of the best speakers in the world. Mesmerizing all public relations spaces all over the world. Then the last batch that I'll recommend, you'll have to read more of entrepreneurship magazines, because that's where you'll get latest development. Because sometimes there's no use to read the book that was written in 1923 while now we're belonging to the information age, we're part of digital economy. So as much as you can read something that will really deal with your mind, because your mind is an impediment, our mind is an impediment, then start looking at the books that actually explain the latest developments in the whole entrepreneurial space. Yes. But continue researching, continue researching. Wisdom does not come overnight. So you must continue research. Go on Google, put a topic there. What are the impediments of entrepreneurship? How can I become a successful entrepreneur? Then you'll get more information.
And also, there's a nice book as well. I think some of you have heard of it, written by Joseph Murphy, The Power of Subconscious Mind. I think that's also another brilliant book to read. And for people who've got challenges, I know most entrepreneurs are actually afraid of pricing. They think that business is about the prices. So if I don't charge too much, then it means I'll get clients. And unfortunately, you'll never go anywhere. You must get a book by, I can't remember the author, but it's entitled, How to Make a Hell Lot of Profit and Still Go to Heaven. How to Make a Hell Lot of Profit and Still Go to Heaven. It's a beautiful book. And there's quite enough. And for those that actually have a challenge in actually getting up and doing what they're supposed to be doing, get the book, Eat That Frog. Eat That Frog. It's a brilliant book as well. There's quite a number of books. Depending, yeah.
Ndade Mighty, one of the questions that I got from people who couldn't make it today was, why are entrepreneurs in South Africa not able to be helped by developmental agencies? But the focus is, how then we fix that? We know the challenges that are there. So from you, why are we not being funded? And then how do we overcome that?
In terms of assistance, there's a lot of them that get assistance, a lot of them. But once you talk about finance, it's another issue. Let me start with assistance. CEDA is the second organization in the country after post office in terms of footprint. So we are across all 9 provinces. And every time when I look at our success, stories, I mean, personally, some of my clients are manufactured for Ford Motor Company. Some of my clients are in the retail store. Some of my clients are doing business internationally. So in terms of assistance, it is not correct that they don't really get assistance. But I know the challenge that our entrepreneurs have before access to market, before finance, before skills, is lack of information. Once we deal with this information part in terms of how to access this information, it sounds very easy and simple, but you'll realize that entrepreneurs lack information. How many of you know that you can do business internationally using the state money? You do business in Japan, go to America, go to SADC, and the government pays for those trips. You see? And we are in Pretoria. There's a DTI across the corner. Now think of a young person in Free State, the rural areas of Northern Cape. If somebody in Arcadia, in Tshwane, doesn't even know what DTI is offering, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Lack of information. Now in terms of finance, remember, before you can get finance, you must be finance ready. It's like saying they don't want to admit the child at school. He must be ready to go to school. Right? Now, you still have entrepreneurs who don't understand the significance of having a business account. They still use their personal account. Now, how many, or is there any fund or investor that will transfer his millions in your personal account? Because if it's your personal account, it means it belongs to Nando's and Foshines and others. That is not business. So before we talk about financial assistance, we must talk about finance readiness. One issue, and it is a global problem. It's a global entrepreneurial challenge. The issue of proper financial controls. When somebody has a business card, business bank card, No, when he sees Nando's, I just swipe. We don't understand the significance of putting proper financial controls in addition to financial discipline that you must exercise. Because this is not your money. It's business money. So you must get a salary from the business, and the business must also breathe because it's a natural entity. It's like a human being. The business is like you. So before we talk about financial assistance, we must deal with the challenges that they're having. The first one is financial discipline. The second one are proper financial controls. The third one is financial management skills. I mean, if you don't even know what is income, what is expenditure, how many investors will give you that money? So that's what I've actually realized. And like I'm saying, it's a global problem. It's not only a South African problem, it's a global problem. So you need to deal with those issues first. Make sure that you have proper financial controls and you are financially organized so that you can be finance ready.
Manu, maybe responding on how one can be finance ready. So let's say I am, keeping my, my books in order. Talk us through, writing, an effective, business proposal, or writing that business plan, that talks to whatever money that you need. Because I think at times people don't know how to write business plans. We take business templates that are not even suitable for our businesses, that are blanket approach. I'm still yet to find a lot of, service businesses, their templates, it's more good selling. So just, talk us through how to write that effective business proposal letter.
I think, look, people would normally write your business plan if you want finance. But the success of a business is not really on the business plan. It's basically on the business strategy. You can have finance, but if you don't have a strategy of running your business, then it's going to be futile. And I think that's one of the reasons why some companies would get finance, but within a short space of time, they've actually folded because they didn't have a strategy. So in terms of your business planning and so on, it's actually not my forte in terms of how to write your business plan. But in terms of how to pitch your business, that's where my strength is.
So then how do I, write, or have that perfect pitch to ensure that I'm in a better position to get what I want?
Okay. There are a few things that people need to know. I see a lot of people actually, when they go out to pitch, they don't pitch to sell. It's like they go out to inform the client about their business. And that's not why you started or you wanted to set up that appointment to start with. You went there because you wanted to pitch and close the deal. But if you go there and you inform and you leave, they're afraid of asking for a close. Now, when they pitch, for an example, there's a few things. Look at, for an example, what are the features of your product? The specs of your product. Secondly, what are the benefits of using your product? Thirdly, what are the advantages of using your product? Now, when you look at particularly the advantage part of it, it's what you are saying is, how will my solution take away the pain that you are experiencing currently in your business? And that is the most critical aspect.
Do you have any questions? 1, 2. Those that have questions, please come this side. Ntate Maite, you're a business advisor, working for CEDA. What are some of the key things that one should make sure that whether they want to be a service provider at CEDA or they're looking for funding, whether financially or non-financially, some of the key things that one should make sure that they get them on lockdown, you don't mess, with making a mistake on them. Some of the key things that you guys look at to ensure that I can get funded and potentially even get investors out there.
Look, in terms of funding, remember what is actually in the mind of a fund or investor is the word risk. Every investor or funder will always think of the word risk. Will this person be able to pay my money? I mean, you know, even when you borrow somebody some money, you'll check. If this guy is not working, he's asking for 5,000, you say, "Hi, Baba." I will make a Now, so you must first understand the requirements of the funder. Because funders look at different things. That's one. Two, the market. It's always better when you apply for finance and you already have an indication in terms of the people that really want your product. You can have off-take agreements. You can have letters of intent. You can have letters from potential client that says, if this person can be funded, we are interested in the product. We are interested in buying this particular product. So you deal with the risk part, because you can't just run a company and apply for finance and you are not really convincing the funder that that will be able to pay the money back. So what is important in business is the market. So prove to the funder that you have the market. Because if you don't prove to the funder that you have the market, now the funder will start to have questions to say, this construction space is very competitive. How will this person be able to pay my money back? Because competition is very rampant. So you must find a way of convincing the funder that I have a good value proposition, right? I'm better than the others, and this is the reference. Get some referral letters. Have as many documents as possible. And secondly, demonstrate that you have an understanding of financial management so that they don't give you the money. I mean, what has actually happened in our country, you'll find that the person is funded and 2 weeks later, he bought a Mercedes-Benz and he said he wanted to buy equipment. So that's the reason why now, especially in government, you know, there's some kind of rules. We are becoming strict because this is taxpayers' money. So please, you must make sure that you demonstrate that you really understand what you are getting into. You really understand your market. You have proof that you'll be able to actually pay that money back. Now, in terms of service provider, obviously, as CEDA, service providers are the extension of CEDA. I will do an assessment on the client, come up with some recommendation and action plan. Let's say I recommend marketing strategy or a business plan. Then I'll send quotations to the service provider who is very experienced. So we need people that are experienced, people that have, you know, a good background about business. We are not actually impressed by academic credentials, because you can have your own MBA and PhD, but they were designed in such a manner that you run somebody else's business. So you want the proof that you have really done the work. You understand the entrepreneurial landscape. You have success rate. Have you worked on a business plan? Have you raised finance for your clients? Is there any proof that finance has been raised? So we will need that experience in addition to academic credentials and whole years of experience.
Questions?
Thank you so much for this talk. I think it's very informative. I have a question about contract forming skills. And my question is getting the foundation right for as you start your business. How far do you go? Also, I think Monde alluded to it earlier on, that when we start businesses, you often start with your friends or your family. So then you, in terms of contract forming, how formal do you make it? Also, because you still want to keep your relationships, but then this is also business. So, and then another thing is, where can one get such skills in terms of contract forming, in terms of negotiation? Do you offer such skills? Or yeah, thank you.
Was there a second question? Sir Manu.
Okay. I always say to entrepreneurs, any agreement you enter into, make sure that it's put down in writing. Make it formal. One of the issues that I deal with on a daily basis, people coming to me with allegations of certain, statements that were made or certain agreements which are never put down in writing. And that is what costs them a lot of money, because now they have to get lawyers to litigate those issues. So the best way of doing it is always formalize any agreement that you have, whether it be a friend, whether it be a relative, whether it be just an ordinary business partner. Formalize. There's actually power in written words. You know, you can see, for an example, when you go to any shop that sells whatever, when there's a price tag there, you don't negotiate, because there's power in that. So always put that in writing. And if there is any agreement which is not in writing, put that addendum, attach it to the contract. Don't say this we agreed verbally. There's no such a thing in court. I hear a lot of people saying we have a gentleman's agreement. It is a gentleman's agreement, but when you get to court, we need evidence. So make sure that you formalize everything. You're talking about the contracts, yes. That's what I do currently with the Ekasi Labs and the innovation hubs. I train entrepreneurs on one, how to analyze a contract. You look at the elements of a legal contract. I do that. I train them as well on how to negotiate a contract. Because some of the contracts I look at, and I did one of the high-profile people in the music industry. When I looked at it, it was actually against her instead of mutually. So the contract that you get into, make sure that it's mutually beneficial.
My name is Rodwo. Whilst we're still on that contract thing, how important is it to get it notarized by a lawyer? To say, okay, so is it important to take it to a lawyer first, or you guys can just sign a paper and then that agreement is binding?
Okay. There's no need for a lawyer to sign your contract. A contract, remember, it's an agreement between two parties. So if me and you have an agreement, we just put it in writing. However, some people still believe that maybe you need to have it commissioned. You can do it at the police station. But it's an agreement. There is no way in the law of contract where it says it must be commissioned by a lawyer. It only says that where two people have an agreement of mind, they put that in writing, and that's it. Okay.
Contracts 101. What are some of the things that when I'm drafting a contract, you know, that I should make sure that I include there? And on the flip side, what are some of the things that I should look out for when I'm entering into a contract where it's not drafted by me?
Okay. One of the things that you have to look at is the legality of a contract. How legal is that contract? You must look at some of the basic elements of a contract. You know, where is it signed? Is it signed by both parties? Read all the T's and C's. A lot of people now, I see a lot of them actually, when they get a deal, they are quick to sign without actually reading the T's and C's. And when they come to me, they find that they've already actually signed unaware of the T's and C's. And you find that T's and C's are actually in favor of the other party and against them. So don't be in a hurry to sign that contract. Rather take your time, take that contract, go home, sit on it, read and analyze it before you sign. Don't be eager to, put your writing on that document because you've got a deal.
Yeah, contract. Ndata Maiti, we spoke about a target market. When starting out, how do I actually make sure that the people that I say are my target market, how do I segment that, customer market? Because you'll find someone, for example, who wants to provide accommodation for tertiary students, saying that the customer is the student, whereas the parent is, the one paying. So how do you make sure or just validate that, whoever that you say is your customer is actually the right person? And do you identify a target market once off and you leave it there, or do you revisit it?
For you to understand your market, you must conduct market research. Remember, business decisions are not social decisions. any decisions that you take must be based on studies, must be based on research, must be based on analysis. You don't just decide and say, you know, this town is full of people that will buy my product. Doesn't work that way. So you must conduct market research. And that's why when you come to us at CEDA to say, CEDA, can you help me to start or grow my business? We give you the template and assist you to work on your market research. Because your market research will actually indicate the environment that you're going to operate in, the market that is there. Then you start planning along that line. But the mistake that entrepreneurs do is that they look at people and just decide from their head that, you know what, this is my market, these people buy my product, only to find that the people are not even interested in that particular market. So it's actually important to do research. It's actually important to do some kind of an investigation. Work on that particular market. Understand those segments. To say, who is my target market? Look at the age group. Look at the income. You know? Remember, there are some of the people who decide, you know, not to buy a product because it's too cheap. So sometimes you can lose clients because your product is very cheap. So it's not like when your product is cheap, then everybody will buy it. So you need to understand that those demographic factors in terms of age, in terms of income, in terms of level of qualification. But for you to understand that and segment that market is through studies, is through research. And government institutions are there. CEDA offices are there to assist you so that you can actually make an informed decision.
So I've conducted the interviews, I've done the research, but how do I attract now customers? Because people have, you know, consultants that do, you know, those market research or, you know, but it's a, you know, discussion for another time. But once you've done that and you're operational, you're not getting those sales. How can I actually attract customers?
Now, to attract customers, you need a strategy. You must develop a marketing strategy. Because the marketing strategy will actually indicate all the activities, all the action plans that will assist you to penetrate that market. In most cases, entrepreneurs make a mistake of spending a lot of money on branding. And when you look at the promotion material that they've developed, you realize that it's not even suitable for the target market. I'll give you an example. Somebody is into construction and is targeting infrastructural development programs of the government, that is through tenders and so on. Now, government procurement people don't have time to go and look at how expensive your website is. They go through CSD, they put a tender, you must present, and when you spend 40,000 on e-commerce, you know, very expensive profiles, closey, brochures. So the marketing strategy will actually make an indication in terms of the activities and marketing tasks and action plans that you need to take for you to penetrate that particular market. So you need to develop a marketing strategy as an instrument, as a vehicle for you to penetrate that particular market. And at a later stage, then develop a sales plan. To say, now that I understand the market, now that I have my marketing strategy, how do I then do sales? All right? Then the issue of branding, digital marketing, which include the social media platform, then become part of that particular marketing strategy.
You know, I'm sitting, I'm thinking, we need to be frank. If you go to some entities that help us, it's easier to get a grant for branding than anything else. Or am I the only one? And a lot of people end up having that branding because it's one of the first things that you get. But then, yes, sir.
Maybe that's why CEDA is one of the best in the country, one of the best in the continent. Maybe that's the reason why. I always say to my clients, I work like a doctor. My client does not come to me and say, I want to be assisted with branding. It doesn't work that way. You don't go to a doctor and say, I have a headache, give me paracetamol. Do you do that? No. Right? Now, when you come to me, you say to me, I want to grow my business. I have challenges in my business. Then I'll do my own diagnosis. I'll do my own assessment. I'll assess your business, right? And put some recommendations. So the challenge that we have, I don't want to talk about other agencies, but any action plan, any intervention that we implement at CEDA is guided by assessment that we conducted. So if you go to agencies and say to them, I want a voucher, we don't deal with vouchers. We run an assessment, we do a diagnosis and put action plan. That's why maybe our success rate is very high.
Shots are being fired. Manu, some of the key things when it comes to negotiating a contract, both sides, contract with the supplier or, a contract with the client.
Okay. I think what I always say is that the success of a business, lies more on how you negotiate. Remember, before you could get that money coming into your business, you need to know how to negotiate. Now, why I'm saying that, if you are willy-nilly giving discounts because you think price is an issue, you're not going to get any money coming into your business. So that goes down to lack of negotiation skills, right? Now, secondly, if you cannot get discounts when you purchase, then it means your costs are increasing. So I always say, learn how to get discounts and how not to give discounts. Then you are able to get your profit and your costs to be reduced.
Do you have any questions?
Or can I also maybe say something that I think I wanted to mention? There's a lady that spoke about hiring people and so on. I think what is also important is you must remember that before you hire somebody, you've got your own values, and that person's values must align with your values. Your visions, your mission, everything, your goals, that person must have similar stuff. Now, you look at, I spoke about issues of pricing. There's a triangle that I always emphasize. It's your product, your service, and your price. There's one intelligent entrepreneur who said, I don't sell these three in my business. I say to my clients, choose any two. These are, you have your product is your specs, is your everything. Then you have your service, right? How you're going to service your people, the warranties, the guarantees, and everything. If you've got your product, the specs are brilliant, your service is brilliant, you can charge any price you want. And most people actually, they are afraid because they know that somewhere they are lagging. That is why you find people buying expensive cars that they can afford. Why? Because of the product and the service is good, they are willing to pay the price. So once you've got those two right, you'll never be afraid of pricing.
So I've set my price. People are not buying. What do I do? Do I lower it?
One of the things that we picked up is that entrepreneurs, one, it's like when they go out there to pitch, they don't think that there's going to be price objection. Secondly, if they think there is going to be a price objection, they don't think about how they're going to deal with an issue of price. And that's one of the things that I teach in the workshops that entrepreneurs attend, in terms of how do you handle the objections of price? How do you handle objections where somebody says, I already have a supplier? Because actually, most of them, when they hear that, they say, oh, okay, then they think that's the end of the business. They close the door and they leave. They sometimes don't even know how to handle an issue where somebody says, let me go and think about it. So basic things of how to handle objections, that's what kills them.
Mighty. That, what's your take on pricing? I feel I need to bring this up. We had one of our darling entrepreneurs, Skinny Socks Boo, whom said, don't be apologetic about your pricing. But I'm thinking of a particular friend, a colleague of mine, who's been in business doing in the ICT space, more on system architectural. She's not gotten a client in 1 year based on a price. and she's still adamant she will not lower her price, but she has no clients. So what do you think should happen in that instance? You've set the price, you believe, there's value or it's the right pricing, but we're not buying.
Yes, then it's important for that entrepreneur to look at the manner in which he or she present her business. It's not about the price. Remember, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that have very good products, but they fail to penetrate the market because they don't have these presentation skills. They don't have these negotiation skills. Because as an entrepreneur, you need this multidisciplinary expertise. You don't need just one product. That's the reason why you must be very careful in terms of people that you bring on board. And it will be very difficult to bring the right people if you don't really understand yourself in terms of your strengths and weaknesses. So you must know that I'm not strong in terms of financials. Then how do I deal with that part? Okay? Consider assist. Is it the right time for me to bring another partner? Now, there's one big company that you know that sell burgers and is known by everyone. And it's selling one of the poorest burgers in the world. But every time when you think of buying a burger, you'll go to that. And it's not about that, it's the manner in which they've presented themselves. It's the manner in which they've built this brand. Remember, brand building at some point is some kind of a psychological process. Some of the products that you buy is not because they are good. It's because they've presented them in such a manner that you end up having this conclusion that no, these are the best product. So it's not about the pricing. So that particular entrepreneur need to work on the marketing strategy, need to understand the market that is actually targeting, need to look at the skills around marketing communication in terms of how he present and penetrate that particular market. Because there are myriad of factors that one need to look at.
Thanks. I think sometimes one of the issues I come across is people far overpricing their product. Just because they believe that's what it should cost, they think the market out there is willing to pay that price. Now, remember, I, as an entrepreneur, I'll set the price. But who determines the value? It's people on the other side, right? So now, when you think that you're going to set the price and determine the value, it's never going to work. Now, also, you are right, it could be that, sometimes people can sell expensive things, right, which do not really have that much value, but people are seeing value on the other side. Always look at these 4 P's when you do any business pitch. Ask yourself, what is the current position now? The second P, what is the problem with the current position? Why should it not be sustainable? Why should things change? The third P, what are the possibilities? What needs to be done? What are the alternatives that you can look into? The final P, what is my proposal? Once you can get these 4 right, then your pitch has gone well.
I'm still waiting to find that formula how to price. And I think, accounting 101, or some of the things that we do, you look at, like the electricity, the rent. I know the seed, I want to find that, how you determine your cost of sales. So your best formula to actually set a price, or do I sit and say, this is the best water, and stuff, and then I put, or do I have to look at certain things to ensure that it's the right price?
I think it will also boil down to one thing, your market research. You also need to check your competitors, for example. How much are they on average charging? What value proposition are you bringing? How different is your product to what they are offering? And then test the market, and you'll be able to see how they respond to it.
In addition to what my colleague is saying. Obviously, you need to look at the cost of the material that we're actually, using to produce the product. You need to look at the costs of transport. You need to look at, other overheads. Communication, you use airtime, data. So now, after you have actually, managed to work out your cost, then you start thinking about your margin. And then when thinking about your margin, you also you do some kind of competitor analysis, as he has correctly put it, to say, what is it that is actually the market is charging? Again, you must be very careful. And I'm saying this from experience. At some point in our family business, we were at some point advised that the manner in which you work out your prices kind of diminish the value of your product. The product that we're manufacturing and selling are the products that are one of the best in the world, and I can correctly say that, and sent to upmarket corporate executive on the female side. But the prices that we were actually charging were the prices that any person, Pretoria Central, Blood Street can afford, while we're actually losing the target market. So as much as you do competitor analysis, you must also have a clear understanding of the people that you're targeting. Now, if you are targeting people that go to Sandton to buy clothes, even if your clothes are the best, there's no way that they'll be able to buy those clothes if your prices is the price of the clothes that is in Marabastad and Blood Street. So there's some kind of a balancing act that you need to do as much as, So you must actually work out, look at the environment that you operate in to say, okay, that's why I use the word demographic factors and psychographic factors in terms of the income of those people. Because if these people are upmarket, high class, corporate executive, and you tell them that they can buy a suit for 300 because somebody is buying at 300 at China City, then you are killing them with business.
I think it also impresses on what I initially alluded to, that you shouldn't just identify the gap in the market, but the market in the gap. You've got different types of customers. You've got cheap customers. Those are the ones that always want to buy at discount or they want to buy cheap things. You've got sophisticated customers, right? Those ones that are going to ask you a lot of questions. What material is it made of? What cotton is it? And all that. Then you've got these other ones, the affluent ones. Those ones are the ones that will go and buy at boutiques. They don't care, the material, whatever. If you say it's so much, they just want to buy because of their social mobility. So if you can have a good product, say for an example, that would have been ideal for the affluent ones, you go and sell it to the cheap ones. They always want to get discounts. It's not going to sell. If you're going to sell your affluent stuff, or rather the stuff that is meant for the cheap ones to the affluent ones, you're not going to get business as well. So know your market and target it.
With the current state of things in South Africa, where we are promoting entrepreneurship, with what we've spoken about for the last hour or so, how does a young man who just completed their matric, care to, comprehend with some of the things that we've discussed? I've never worked anywhere. I want to move into the ICT space. I need to make sure that the product or service that I'm providing, it's of good quality, but I need to deal now with a competitive advantage. I need to have a unique selling proposition. So to someone who's new into all this, where do I start? Those that are already, trading, making some money, informally or formally, but they've never sat and looked and said, this is my strategy. I've never said and said, this is my target market. So where would you advise for one to start now to fix their problems? And those that are still in idea phase, what should they do to learn about this? Because not all of us are from corporate or had the privilege to actually study.
Okay. Those that are starting, I'm happy you said they've just completed their matric. So I assume that they are able to read. It's an assumption. It's an assumption. So reading, and I'll emphasize this one. Reading. One person said, if you want to hide information for black people, put it in the books. They won't read it. So that's why we can spend a lot of money on Facebook and Instagrams and spend thousands of rands. But how many of those young people are able to go to CNA and exclusive books and buy entrepreneurship magazines and read? All the do's and don'ts are in those articles. Google is everything. You go to Google and say how to start a business in South Africa. You get everything. But we don't. We want to sit down on Facebook the whole night, switch off electricity so that we can chat properly. So then, I mean, you will have a basic understanding of what needs to be done. That's one. Two, when you start researching, you'll actually realize that there's just an organization across the corner. In the communities, there's NGOs that focusing on entrepreneurial development for young people. There's CEDA offices, there's GAP offices, there's NYDA offices. The municipalities have local economic development divisions where they invite all those stakeholders within enterprise development space to come and speak about these particular issues. But we don't go there, young people don't go there. So it's not really a valid reason for us to be failing. I always say to my client, and I repeat it every now and then, South Africa is one of the best countries in the world where SMMEs are supported. One of the best. I have seen people starting businesses without money. You can grow business in this country without money. You can penetrate the international market without money. I have clients that will go to China to do business and travel all over the world. I had a client who started from 20,000 per annum to 850,000 in 12 months and selling very simple things that ladies don't even think of selling because maybe don't enhance their social prestige, but that is business.
I think that is true. And one of the challenges as well is that most of the entrepreneurs, they want to start big. And they forget that you have to start small. It's many a little that makes a miracle, you know. And unfortunately, some of them that started big and they got those big contracts, when they don't get subsequent big contracts, that's what kills their morale as well.
But then I'm sitting and I'm thinking, if I go to CEDA and want assistance, and my annual turnover is 30,000, will I still get assistance? Because there is that thing that we need to push numbers. You know, we need to show that the maximum in terms of profitability. So, do I need to wait up until a certain point to look at getting assistance, or no matter the turnover I'm currently making, I can still go out there and venture into bigger things?
Now. It's not correct that we look at those that are already, making the numbers. At CEDA, we kind of classify our clients. We have the startups, those that are saying, I want to start a business. I don't know where to start. Maybe I worked in the ICT space for some years, or I just have matric. But I want to start construction business, or I want to be involved in the tourism sector, right? So we'll group them, do an assessment, give them training, assist them with market research, and move with them. So the issue of numbers is not important because a large business or medium-sized business of today was a startup yesterday. So it was 0 yesterday. Today is a small business. Tomorrow is a medium-sized business. Tomorrow is a large business. Every empire that you see started very small. Pick and Pay started from the boot of a car. Apple started in the garage. Microsoft, all of them. So we need to understand that starting small is starting big. What is important is for you to begin with the end in mind. And unfortunately, for you to begin with the end in mind, you need to work on your subconscious mind. Because our upbringing, our educational system, our association, at some point, our families are an impediment to our entrepreneurial success. Our partners are impediment to our entrepreneurial success. So, we're available to assist you.
We're happy to hear that. Manu, there was a question at the back. Okay, as you come to the front, Manu, unique selling proposition. How do I, pin that down? How do I go about writing that unique selling proposition? Key things that must go into it, and based on what to say, this is my USP.
Okay. Like I mentioned prior, that your unique selling propositions are, you look at your product. How different is your product from the ones that are currently available, right? 2, the benefits. What are the benefits of using your product? 3, what are the advantages of using your product? Now, if using your product is going to take away the pains that I have, then it means it's solving the problem. But if I don't have a pain in using whatever model I'm using, even if you pitch your business, it's not taking away my pain, then, or it doesn't even, line up with what I'm experiencing as a problem, then there is no way I'll be interested in your product. So your value proposition is based basically on these 3 things.
Can the last round of questions come please this side? Can you please come this side? I'm just trying to think, if someone wants to move into a fast food business, how do I craft that USP? But would you be able to help someone who can tell us about their business and maybe give them pointers, on what they, how they can write their USP? Can we try that?
Yes.
A
Remember,
real business. Can we call someone to tell us about their business?
no, it's fine.
Is there anyone who would want us to give them pointers on their USP? The 2 ladies here, you have a new business. You can also come, ma'am, please.
Evening, guys. We have just started a new business, Renali, a month now. It's KT Veggies. KT Veggies. Veggies, yeah, as in vegetables. What we do basically is we're dealing with cutting, peeling, and packaging vegetables. So we are just new. So this is our baby. So we need to know how to make this a success. And making it successful, like getting into the right direction, how to go about, not to make mistakes, and how to improve for it to be a success.
Just before, I know them, I've just recently met them. So basically what they're doing is, instead of traditionally selling of veggies, so you get there, they've already washed them, cut them, peeled them, so ready to cook kind of thing, like your McCain, fries. So you just buy like your pumpkin, it's already cut. They knew, I think this is their first time in business. So what advice can you give to them going forward, and how can they craft that USP and actually selling in a township environment to say, move away from your traditional veggie buying, here's convenience. Because my talk with them was, they're selling convenience.
Oh, okay.
I'm quite involved in the agricultural space. And you are in a very, very powerful sector, exceedingly powerful. I understand you might not have information in terms of how to. Now, let me put it this way. There's this thing called economy. Ne? There are sectors that are really called key economic drivers. Remember, every country will know that the key sectors that build economy are these ones. Right? Now, in South Africa, agro-processing is one of the key sectors that the government is looking at, and it's exactly what you're doing. Now, the government developed some incentive and schemes to support SMMEs, right? That actually participate in the sectors that build economy. For example, you have manufacturing sector, you have agro-processing, you have ICT, you have tourism. Now, when you talk about agro-processing, I'll just give an assignment so that I don't have to talk a lot. Also go to DTI website and read about this thing. You'll realize that there's even a grant focusing on agro-processing. Because if you grow the agro-processing sector, if you produce our own food, remember there's no financial independence, there's no freedom if you cannot produce our own food. Then there's no freedom. Now, in terms of agro-processing, that's exactly the sector that we are in. So tomorrow, don't say I'm in the sector of buying vegetables and peeling and packaging. You are a processor, man. Right? Now, look at all the retail stores. The no-name brands in the Pick and Pay. No-name brands try to mix vegetables are done by people like you, and Pick and Pay comes on board and put a no-name brand. Same with ShopRite, same with Woolworths. ShopRite, Spars, Woolworths are not farmers, are not processors. They get people like you to process for them. And they take their brand and put it there. And then they sell them. So we can actually, that one I can talk more. That's why I even had to steal the mic from my brother. Because I'm quite involved in the agricultural space as well. I have a lot of clients that I'm assisting across that line. That's one. Now, let's sit down and say, can people in the township really afford to leave the vegetables, go in the taxi rank and buy packaged vegetables where you'll include packaging, you will include the water cost that you use, electricity? Will they afford that? That's the question. Now, if they can't, now, will the people that stay in the suburbs of Pretoria who don't have time, they want to put these things in the microwave and run to work, afford that? Now, who is your target market? Now, how do you position yourself for that particular target market? Now, in terms of unique selling proposition, my brother will explain a lot on that. But I'm telling you, are in the sector where there's just a lot of opportunities. Let me conclude by saying, I'm not sure if there's any of you who has information about the Walmart and Massmart deal that Competition Commission was working on, and COSATU and others were against it. The deal was approved on condition that Walmart put an enterprise development fund, I think it was 238 million, I can't remember, to procure from local suppliers, That's the reason why for the first time you see macro having vegetables. That's for the first time you see game selling food. The fund now must actually, procure the stuff from you. But the question is, how many of our people are producing food? How many of people are manufacturing? How many of our people are processing? So you are in a very good space. You must just grow the business, be patient, work out on the branding, do product testing. And then if you talk to me properly when I live here, I can link you one of the processors that already supply hospitals and so on, so as to learn more in terms of best practices.
I think you covered on that. Briefly.
Hi, my name is Dinah. I'm with my partner here, Maputi. We've just started a bakery business in Olivenhout-Bosch. We are producing bread. And with the fact that we've seen the kind of bread that is being sold at auction, and hence we saw the opportunity that we need to bring a better bread than the one that is being produced from elsewhere, because it's not coming from Oliven. So we are doing a difference in our community by bringing the better bread.
The question is?
No, around the USP.
Oh, he says.
But what is the question?
So no, remember I said 2 people that can come up and talk about their businesses where they're not sure about their unique selling proposition. So they have started this business.
Okay. Maybe the first question you should ask yourself is, why did you start the business? Why do you think that people have a problem with the current supplier? Then if they have a problem with the current supplier, what is it that you're going to do differently from what the current supplier is doing? Those are the key questions that you should actually ask yourself. Because remember, you must bring in that fundamental difference for you to make that mark in business. Hence, we always say, what is your unique selling proposition? Because if you're going to sell it different and say, maybe let's say you are saying it's the quality of the bread, right? Do people actually even have a problem with the quality of the bread? Or is it because they just want to eat? They don't care about the quality of the bread. That's your assumption. You understand? Yes, it is an assumption. You understand? So why do you think that they want to use your product and not use the current one? Do you understand? Is it a question of, if you bring your bread, is it going to be a better quality for the same price? Because if you are going to say, for an example, it's a better quality with a higher price, then they might say, but then that's why we don't even buy from competitors, because of their prices. You understand? So always ask yourself those kind of questions. Value proposition more than the price. Does that answer your question? Okay, thanks.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Do you know Gipsa? Bigsa?
Bigsa, yeah.
Okay, right. Oh, you must, an entrepreneur is a writer. Okay. Right, there's an incubator called Bigsa. It's funded by the Germans, it's funded by CEDA. City of Tshwane is also one of the partners. Right? Now, I will advise that you visit Bigsa, and they focus on bakery, on confectionery at a very high level. So you can go to an extent of including very classic scones and, cakes, and at a very high level. Yeah, so, and it's a CEDA incubator. So if you say, go on Google and say Bigsa, you go to them, they run presentations. It's just on the N4. Our offering Paga Solomon Mahlangu, that N4, yes, industrial park. Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
It's actually called N4 Gateway, ne?
Yes.
Yeah. I know one of the delegates that we trained when I had a workshop with you is actually from Bigsa as well. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you yet again. Okay, I have an interesting one. I want to ask about network marketing as a business. One, do you consider it a legitimate business? And then, yes, what problem does such a business solve? Another thing is, would you advise for or against it?
Can I take this? Okay. Network marketing actually, it's one of the brilliant business concepts. I remember Warren Buffett once said, if everything else fails, he's going to get into network marketing. So what it does actually is that they are using the field people. They use what they call a word of mouth advertisement. So they reward you for advertising their business. Say for an example, somebody like says he likes this jacket and asks me, where did I buy it from? I say, Pep. You go and buy it from Pep, but Pep is not going to give you anything. So what network marketing says is, we're going to pay you for referring people to us. So yeah, it is one of those, it actually fights unemployment, if you look at it.
I will suggest that Christians always say, God does not start you where it doesn't matter. Everywhere you start is always the right point to start it. Now, I will suggest that as much as you regard network marketing as a business opportunity, but say to yourself, this is my starting point. so that in a situation where unknown market forces or the whole economic climate becomes so unfavorable, you have already raised a capital to focus on what is in you, because network marketing belongs to somebody else. So I will suggest that you regard network marketing as a strategy for you to raise capital. I always compare network marketing with tenders. I mean, you cannot say you are an entrepreneur if you're only focusing on tenders. I can't be in a business of relying on another person to issue an opportunity when he's in a good mood. That is not entrepreneurship. So tendering is an opportunity for you to increase your sales, so that the money that you generated from tenders, you are able also to build something that doesn't need moods of any other person, but your moods to have it moving. So go into network marketing as a business and say, I regard this as like somebody's working, like my brother was working, and he decided to move out and follow what is in him.
Abut Monde earlier mentioned something about the fourth industrial revolution. Very powerful subject in my space. And from a corporate perspective, I understand exactly what it means. Now my question to you guys is, what does it mean in our world as entrepreneurs? What techniques would you actually just throw our way in terms of understanding how that will help empower us and give us the tools that are going to help unpack what it will do to our advantage if we learn a little bit more about what it is, what it means, and how to tackle this subject, because it is global. Yes. It talks to us from an innovative perspective, and everyone in this room is innovative, because you can't be an entrepreneur if you're not innovative. Okay, so those are the only two questions you are supposed to answer. Thank you.
The serious question, this one. Okay, look, at some point we will actually be challenged by the fact that we are part of the third world countries. There are certain challenges that we just find ourselves in a pool of them. For the mere fact that we are part of the third world countries, it will always be difficult for us to have a clear understanding of certain aspects of evolution. But now, the question is, how do we actually close that gap so that we can actually move with times? And I will emphasize reading. A young person from Magurunga Mphahlele, where there's no running water, no electricity, no post office, no clinic, but he has a smartphone, he's on Google, he's on Facebook, but he claims not to understand the fourth industrial revolution. That is not correct. That is not correct. If you look at cell phone users, you go to the rural areas of Eastern Cape, you find that even some of the grandmothers have cell phones that were bought by the kids so that they can communicate with them. So the access is there. But now, we lack this desire, this aggressive spirit to read. Because once you start reading, we use the same smartphones to read and understand what is happening. That's where we'll be able to have an understanding of such concepts. But instead, we don't. We only focus on things that waste of our time and so on. So we are part of the third world. We need to do something. We really need to do something. And reading and researching, we're very privileged now because every piece of information from anywhere in the world is accessible to us, which is exactly part of fourth industrial revolution. You go to rural areas now, people even understand what is Bitcoin, what is blue chip. There will be a time where you don't have to carry money in your account and so on. Your money will be on the cloud and you buy. It has already started in this country. But let's use those data. Let's use that airtime wisely. That's the problem. If we use it wisely, that won't be a problem. And again, it's back to the mindset.
And can I also add on that? I know we discussed it previously. The fact that I think because of we're innovative, if you look at certain careers, certain jobs, they said 20% of the current jobs in the next 10 years, they will be obsolete. But then if you do something that everyone is currently doing, you're not going anywhere because it's going to disappear and the market is going to be saturated. I always say, what is it that you are doing differently? What are you bringing in that is not currently available? And that should actually be the way forward when you talk about the fourth, industrial, So people need to look at that and say, what is that I can do that other people, identify that problem and solve it. But if you're going to say, I'm going to do what everyone else is doing because it's successful, like you mentioned, the tenders. If you're going to be doing, I see a lot of people actually are banking on tenders. When there's no tender, they've got nothing to do. So it means they're not being innovative. So start thinking innovatively. And I'm glad also you mentioned the fact of reading. Reading is very critical. I mean, I come across entrepreneurs. Some of them, when I tell them about the books I bought and the price, they go, what, so much? And I say, yes, even if it means sourcing a book from Harvard University, I do it, and they don't understand. And I said, that's the business of running your business that you need to develop.
All right, just quickly, I just want to highlight also one of the good things that SIDA is doing. They have got these student incubators around the country. I was in DR about 5 weeks ago hosting a hackathon there, and we got to work with them. Very beautiful lab. So we need such to make sure that people are exposed to what is happening, how things is progressing as such. So speaking of progress, we need to keep in mind that the fourth industrial revolution is a process. This is a way of life. And there is so much hype about it. There's so much bubble such that some people are getting worried. That they are being left behind. But that is a process that started with the first industrial revolution, using water and steam to be able to produce produces as such. And then you had the second one where electricity was introduced. We got to understand what electricity is, and mass production started as such. And then the third one where cars were started being manufactured by robots, autonomousity as such. And now the world has gone much smarter. We have more things connected to the internet than people actually, which is quite fascinating. But it is the world that we are adopting to. We are being exposed to this world. This year, in terms of internet connectivity, 20% more of Africans became more connected to the internet. Half of the world is connected to the internet as well. And that is what the fourth industrial revolution is all about. It's more on what we call the Internet of Things. It's just the way we are doing life. And it's for us to be able to survival of the fittest in this era. So entrepreneurs just need to be constantly looking at issues that pertains, because you are the context, you are the expert of your own context as such. You understand what are the challenges, you understand what needs to be done in your community, in your constituencies as such, and you need to be constantly evolving and building for the world of tomorrow, the world of today, and shape life as we want it to be.
And I think just to add on that is why the upcoming generation that's going to get into our workplace is called the I generation. Because those are the ones that actually will be using internet to the best,
Sanmana, hi. My company is called Linden Gold. It's a public benefit organization. Instead of focusing on construction and everything you can probably think of, I decided to create a platform for myself. So I'm going to focus on education and community empowerment. So what we want to do is establish advice offices in public high schools, in township high schools. I think ugutile information in isipayon, like say personal finance and law advice, those things, those services, we should take them into our high schools. I think if students, mabangathola all the services under one umbrella, every day, 5 days of the week, they have no excuse of making it. So now, what I've done today, skills development. I've done a certificate in community development. I still need to do a certificate in sustainable development, and so on and so on, and motivating students to learn. Because at the end of the day, we need them to learn so that when they have their degrees, they can be able to start those businesses and companies so that bakretum savings. Now, I need assistance. In total, I know I have to do the market research, but one thing, okay, when I go to the Department of Education and do a proposal, you know what, I'm planning to do this and this and this. Advice officers, okay, these offer free legal advice, because a lot of people, they can't afford to pay lawyers. And a lot of people, they don't know pro bono lawyers, where you get legal advice or services for free. And then we're going to focus on personal finance. We need to teach these kids and what's the disadvantages of not using your money or not investing and saving at gule age baguyo. And then health, safety, and nutrition. Abantwana bethu, unfortunately, it's not it. You understand? So now, what if we establish those advice offices in township schools? For example, in Mamelodi, we have 57 schools. So what if we start with 10 high schools, we do those advice officers. Now, what we're going to do is, okay, you can have your degree. But now in the interview, they want the 3 years experience. You don't have that. You are fresh from varsity. So that's when Linden Gold comes in. You have your degree, you lawyer, you come to us. You do learnership with us. So we're going to start a 3 years work experience program where we're going to partner with the universities. So now we're trying to tackle unemployment and now this high rates of varsity students who are sitting home with their degrees and their diplomas. So this is not going to benefit just the students, it's going to benefit our kids, it's going to benefit our teachers, it's going to benefit the whole community. So now, for example, if Monday to Friday we're just focusing on school, and on weekends, when as umzali, if you're working Monday to Friday or whatever, so weekend you have okay, it has in a problem, so or I don't know, that's where you come in. That's when on weekends we assist a community as a whole. So for example, the question is, for example, I want to do e-market research. I need to present this in local high school to the principals. For example, I don't think it's appropriate for me to just go there, net document pale. At least I should have those banners and represent it to the whole abantwana. You understand? So guys, you know what? As much as we are focusing on academics, people, abantwana, they have talents. That's when we'll partner with small businesses are focusing on art. That's when we'll be motivating them. So I need to know, okay, finances, they are not looking up. So what do I do so that I can approach the schools? Because I need transport, firstly of all. I need to do surveys. For me to do the survey, I need to type the documents. I have to, the logo and everything. So,
Short. Yeah. How do you see yourself making a living through that? Okay.
So what we're going to do, for example, if we offer these 4 services in a school, what we can do, one thing I've noticed, a lot of people, Guma communities, they're unemployed, abazali. So, and Tina Espazal, we do want to see education improve and isn't improve. So, as Umzal or as organization, that's where we say, you're not going to pay a monthly installment to access our services. What we're going to do is you are only going to pay, let's say, 450 an annual once-off fee, and then that 450 in, if it's in 2 schools or 3 schools, it's plus minus $1 million. So that's when Sizokon sustain. Now the ukupatela abasebenzi, for example, we can find funders internationally and the government can come on board, but then I need to know ukuthi ngiyenzeni, because I have this idea, but then how do I go forward?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, look, everything that you said is I mean, that's very powerful. I like that. Ne? For as long as, if I was a policymaker, I'll make sure that entrepreneurship become part of the subject from primary school and structure it in such a manner that at primary school, bana bala ba banyane are able to kind of discover their entrepreneurial side. I'll definitely do that. But I'm not a policymaker. Now, what we are doing is called social entrepreneurship. Ne? At CEDA, we don't help NGOs. Maybe I have to indicate it's very clear because cameras are watching me. At CEDAs, we don't help NGOs. We don't help non-profit making organizations. But the advice that I can give you is that social entrepreneurship is becoming a very powerful model, exceedingly powerful model globally. Because in my opinion, I will say it's a double-edged sword. On the other side, it's able to do what any entrepreneurial activity is capable of doing in terms of money making. On the other side, it's able to address any socio-economic challenge that the society is facing. But you must then link it to what is called corporate social investment, right? Yeah, please go on Google and read corporate social investment. Every company in South Africa, every multinational, every corporate, according to BEE legislation, is bound and compelled to spend a certain percentage of their profit on corporate social investment. That's where you'll have to come in. Because Mamelodi, a Ford Motor Company, go to Ford and say, how does Ford spend its CSI budget? Right? Go to Nampek, check all the multinationals in Tshwane. In Tshwane, we have Nampek, we have Ford, we have Sepaku Mines, we have Exaro, there's a lot of them. So, as much as you are focused on a social entrepreneurship, that in itself is a business. That's why in terms of the Company Act, non-profit companies are also governed by the Act. Because as a social entrepreneur, you can still make more money, but remember, directors cannot declare dividends. So you can get your salaries and benefits. But what you have said, I'm just impressed looking at your age. I know sometimes a person can look young, but only to find that he's over age. I understand, but I'm very impressed with what you've said. Yeah. We can talk more. Let's talk more. Yeah, let's talk more after that, because that in itself is a very interesting space. Those that are in the corporate sector, in the management side, Gibbs offers bursary on social entrepreneurship. And it's a very powerful program. It's exceedingly powerful. Now, corporate social investment managers of different multinationals become student there, and it's also funded by other multinationals. So it's a space on its own. But at CEDA, we don't assist with that. CEDA, we want people that says, we want to be millionaires. We want this money for us. That's our space.
Okay, gentlemen, your parting shots. Starting with you, what advice, what key things we should look out for around contracts, negotiations, making those sales pitches? Your parting shots, sir.
I think it's important to start first with knowing why you're in business. Then be able to, craft that proposal. Know how to pitch. Know how to handle objections. and over and above, know how to negotiate those business deals. I know negotiation is quite a very technical and involved skill, but learn it. There are a lot of books that are written around negotiations. I know one of the most popular one is Getting to a Yes by Roger Fisher. There's quite a lot of books around issues of negotiations. Some of them, it's about negotiations within a week. You know, it teaches you basic things about how to negotiate. But I think business is not only about that. There's one aspect that people need to actually get into or tap into, your emotional intelligence. Your emotional intelligence means also having patience, knowing that there is no overnight success, you know. But then if you don't have that right, then, you know, your business is not going to grow, you know. Be able to talk to people, have those social network skills. You know, don't be greedy. Learn to collaborate with people around your space. Learn more, like you mentioned. Read more. Entrepreneurship is about reading. It's about improvement, innovation. See how you can improve on your current processes and systems. Get coaches, get mentors. Be guided, and never ever do it alone. You know, entrepreneurship is a very lonely space, people. And if you don't get the support groups, if you don't get people you share ideas with, you bounce your ideas with. I know my business partner, she knows, sometimes I'll call her around 1 o'clock and say, I've got this crazy idea, wake up, let's talk, you know. And she says, okay, it's fine, you know, we talk about it. Sometimes we'll talk till around 3, 4 o'clock in the morning when she has to go to work the next day. But it's very much important to have those kind of support. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. Mr. Mighty.
Yeah, what I can say to you is that, look, there's a reason why you're existing. You are not here by accident. You were made to continue delivering things that were not delivered before. Stop following the crowd. That's a mistake that we do. To see another brother involved in the construction sector or in the catering, that is not your space. Spend time on discovering yourself. Stephen Covey says if you are given certain hours, 7 or 8 hours to chop the tree, spend 6 hours sharpening the saw so that when you chop that tree, you are able to make progress. Black child, you are on your own. This world is very competitive. You are not part of statistics. You can't just be part of numbers. That is not possible. That is not possible. Spend time discovering who you are, why you came to this planet, why are you existing. That's one. Secondly, I believe in the power of networking. When I entered the enterprise development space, I did not have those BComs and so on. I said to myself, I come from the rural areas. I just studied criminology as my honors degree. And I realized along the way that I can't be playing in this space. Now the only instrument that I used to gather knowledge and be where I am now, it was networking. I became members of professional organizations, became member of different business organizations. Everywhere where there's business, meeting or gathering, I'll go there. I learned, I increased my networks, and I read a lot. So please, that's, in my opinion, that will move you. It will empower you in terms of business knowledge. It will create a lot of leads and sales for you. It will assist you in terms of growing your business and increasing your networks. Lastly, understand the power of association. This thing of black people wanting to succeed at a certain corner and come to the township with the cars, you know, that don't have roof to show other brothers that you are successful. We will never. I always talk about the Afrikaner community wherever I go. That is why today in this country, even in this democracy, we are still not able to rise above water level as Africans because we don't understand the power of association. We don't understand the power of numbers. We don't understand the power of togetherness. We like to compete among ourselves. Now, why don't we establish our own business forum? When we look at the different business forums that are led by black people, there's a leadership deficit in this country. There's always scandals about money and power mongering and so on. So why don't we establish our own youth chambers? Because remember, teamwork always outperforms individual work. Thanks.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, can we stand and give them a round of applause? Sir Manu, from the team, thanks a lot for coming out and being part of this discussion. Thanks a lot. We've really learned a lot from you. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for your time. And please, you are in the midst of other entrepreneurs. There's a lot that was said today. We're going to be putting it up on our YouTube channel. Please do check out Startup Grind, Pretoria. There's a lot that we need to look into. Those that are still starting out, I don't know if you've noticed, like with the KT ladies, the way you term your things, you're not cutting, it's agro-processing. The way that you coin such terms, it will enable you to attract the right people. Have a safe journey. See you on the 4th of December, where we are going to be having a year-end party where we'll be talking around marketing and branding. Have a safe trip, and thanks a lot for coming out. Thank you.